One does not need to downplay the victims or offspring, or to properly label the prisoners of war and our ancestors' offspring, which currently present. I am our ancestors who were stolen from. Okay, so it's very insulting, and almost
were stolen from, ordered to leave our own territory, our own shelter. We gave kindness, we shared information, education, we accepted, even though you did not entirely look how we look. And when you are attempting to, I guess, go over your suffrage, so your great grandparents came over here and settled here and were slaves? No, were indentured servants. There's a difference between a slave and an indentured servant. Because if you have status today, you're living in a home and you were able to get loans, you drive a vehicle, you consider yourself to be a citizen, and you have this persistent tone and this entitlement to a citizenship of which a land that was stolen and is still occupied by immigrants. You're illegal. Okay, the contract void because you've betrayed and not upheld any of the agreements. Not a one. So when you make welfare programs and these little scam, okay, and it's done to sweep it under the rug or make a huge betrayal and a huge violation. You're trying to make it appear as if, oh, everything's good, and it's never been good because nothing has ever stopped. When you make your presence known in areas where it's poverty, when you've inserted your imagery into here and then colonized and then altered the look of what a native woman looks like, and then the audacity to call her black or him black, or the audacity to make claims that you put me on a boat and brought me here, which is false. And many of the natives, the Native American Indians, of which you titled them to be, most of them are not. They were settlers too. So you don't need to, the sad part is, it's comical listening to immigrants, settlers of greats, indentured servants, when they are trying to legitimize their existence in a stolen land, and they will make it a theme to downplay racism and scoff at it when they speak about it, and then insert their victimhood into it as if it's parallel or that it was similar. So then they may ask a question, and that insults me, because racism, first of all, is it's actually a false notion of something that is used so frequently that people believe that it actually exists, and it doesn't. It does not, in the sense of when using the language rules It does not assimilate as to what it actually is. Racism in its true essence could be a more intellectually computation word, such as extreme abuse of original creators or original living human beings. It is extreme abuse and oppression and violence and hatred and insult. And it is complex abuse in which that it's done, because this isn't racism, it's just extreme abuse towards original people. Brown people, for some reason, cause fear, anxiety, and inspire opposition from European Caucasian settlers. And they do this in almost every brown person's land. You can go nowhere, and it's sad that I can make this statement, being that in this present day, I have not traveled outside of the country. However, there have been cameras and recordings, and the theme is the same. The blogs are the same. The writings are the same. It's the same. So-called American fake ass corporation that was created. It intrudes and impedes and imposes into other people's lands with a authoritative presence. They make up excuses as to why they're there, and then after they've destroyed the land, terrorized the people, stolen whatever it was that they were looking for, and whatever remains traumatized and broken as could be, even the very infants are destroyed while they were in the wombs of their mothers and were born defected, not from alcohol, which they warn us not to drink from the Surgeon General, not from alcohol, but from the chemicals of what they're doing over there. So I guess the question would be, dear American parents, and you feel that you've done an honor, why, if and especially American Christian parents, how is it that your God can tell you and give you 10 commandments and you can't even follow the first one? That's hypocrisy. Thou shalt not kill. Only when Americans tell you to go kill is acceptable. So you mean to tell me that there's someone above your God then, and you don't really believe in God? Because if you did, you would follow the very first commandment, thou shalt not kill. Why are you sending your children over there to go shoot at people in their own land? Did it not dawn on you that you broke the commandment? So I won't even get into that any further. When you impose these policies and these rules onto people who were occupying this land way before you ever came, not only were they occupying what you call America, they were occupying this world before you even came. And I guess being resourceful and not being wasteful, okay, and not being wasteful is more is deemed as wrong in your eyes. However, it's inappropriate, and I don't care what you say about your great grandparents being indentured servants, because they sure in the hell were not slaves. They were indentured servants. You guys get loans. Okay, and then you want to cry about the grants towards education. First of all, that institution that you're crying about, and oh, I guess I gotta be black to get in there, you're pathetic, because when you hold education at ransom, then in my book, you are just, you pitiful. And that is not what we upheld. That is not what we practice. Oh, and we were just running around and have little thongs on and stuff. The images that you portray of what a Native American looks like are most oftentimes invalid and not factual. You're looking at one right now. I did not call myself a Native, nor did I call myself American. Now, you're talking about immigrants coming into this land, Mexicans and Hispanics, which you title them, are not immigrants. You are. The South Africans, those dark-skinned ones that are fighting those people on the land, you're holding them accountable? Those European pale-skinned people, that is not their land. Africa does not produce, the temperature and climate of Africa will not produce what is seen there. So you want to talk about Europe? Why are you blaming the so-called American blacks, and talking to us? You are directing that conversation at the incorrect audience. Direct that over there to Europe. And then once they leave, or if you can, how about this? We'll take the brown people and you can go back to Europe. And with me being mixed, being that it's fraud if I identify as a European, even though I am mixed. Wouldn't that be my land too then? No, of course not. When you dare say anything to the original people who were occupying this land, my ancestors, which is me, I am. No, it did not happen hundreds of years ago. And even with it being that it happened hundreds of years ago, this ideology that anything has deceased or has desist or has stopped or discontinued is myth. When people are still being killed by your enforcers, who in all actuality are illegitimate, are mercenaries, when it's acceptable for them to kill people in their own land, be it that we're not submitting and obedient to foreigners, immigrants, being that we don't uphold the codes of foreigners, immigrants, tyrants, terrorists. And when you defend it, it shows clearly. And when you feel entitled to make claims and profess a citizenship is insulting. The reason why it's more, and the reason why I find it entirely insulting is because you have not proven or shown or displayed any characteristics that would confirm your existence and presence in a stolen, occupied land. Furthermore, anytime that you need to make a mockery of the suffrages that are still continuing present day, anytime that you can demean the so-called welfare queen, it's insulting also because those programs you also benefit and gain wealth from. Something that me and others, the natives of this land, did not. And we're not envious or jealous of that. It just goes to show, because even when we don't or no longer are able to care for our home the way that it should be, as we sit and observe and watch how ungrateful you are and how greedy and how nothing will satisfy you, how we still find the beauty in small things, and we're able to keep ourselves pleasant enough to not destroy people, because we defend, but we don't give a damn about you. We just are insulted because you open your mouth to speak lies like you always have, and then feel so entitled, and then throw out invalid statuses and words that mean little to nothing in the actual real law. So I'm a citizen here, and my great greats were slaves. They were never slaves, they were indentured servants. And the reason why we know that they're indentured servants is because you're sitting inside four walls to talk this shit and go, oh, well, what are you so unhappy about? There's people out in third world countries that are suffering, don't have water. The reason why they are suffering and don't have water is because you sent your sons to go and destroy them and terrorize them. That's why they ain't got water. And then the audacity to show your pale face on TV asking for money to save the lives that you fucking destroyed and stole from.
It's beyond depraved for a settler, immigrant, to come into an area they did not discover. You did not discover. You cannot discover what is already occupied. So it insults us personally when you downplay our experiences and then continue to belittle us as if that anything has been repaired. Nothing has been reconciled. And when I say nothing, I mean nothing. Okay? Furthermore, the current situation is not any better. If you want to say, oh, we've came a long way, actually, no, we have not. Actually, what has happened is it surpassed a physical aspect and intruded into the mental. Okay? So when forcing the native to take drugs because your ideologies are not parallel to what the natives' beliefs are.
Yep, because in your delusion, if a native says that they hear the voice of God, your authority figures and characters feel that it is acceptable to enforce and uphold their opinion, an opinion that has not been scientifically confirmed. So when Caucasian European controller, okay, the dominant, just magically has the ability to insert the Bible into the courthouse, and then to have a chaplain inside of the hospital, and then has a church on just about every close proximity block, and yet is talking about waiting on Jesus, and then on the back of that dead tree, paper, whatever, in God you trust, and in your dog you trust. If a brown person says or admits, or a Caucasian European, especially if they're in the medical field or in any so-called authoritative figure character position, if they overhear or you profess or confess to them that that you're a spiritual person, or that you believe in God, or that you've heard God's voice, or that you've seen the light, it doesn't matter how you phrase it. If if they hear you say anything about having any type of faith in whatever, they find it their right and their responsibility to drug brown people and then to give them a false analysis, and then it could be within the first 5 minutes of meeting them, and they automatically know what's wrong with you. And actually, in all actuality, it's them. But because in their delusional brain, they cannot thrive with the truth. Okay? They have to be right. They have to be the savior. And it's all better as long as you take their advice, as long as you listen to their expertise. And then as they damage your brain and create more health failures and cripple your organs and impose and do all this and run tests, they turn perfectly healthy brain and body into dysfunctional, distorted. That's exactly what happened to me. My attention span corrupted because they chose to put me on Remron when I was 13. And these are mandatory that they do this. They force. You hear me? They will hold you down. I've been chained to a bed. Do you think any of the words that are coming out of my mouth actually resonate with Caucasian European? No, because their delusion will not allow them to acknowledge the truth. Anytime that you acknowledge the truth, they will interject their victimhood into your suffrage. And that's what insults me also, is the whole Me Too thing. Oh, it's happened to me too, and you don't think that's right. You're taking the trinkets. So, and by trinkets, these trinkets aren't just little trinkets. Y'all have lavish homes, and this ain't envy. I'm not envious of you. I think actually it's quite disgraceful. So, when you cry, the poorest of you lives a more comfortable life than the natives of their own home, and that should insult you if you're such a truther. If you believe in truth and justice and you cannot acknowledge, and then you keep on making excuses. You say, oh, they're alcoholics. Oh, they're lazy. Oh, why would I want to work for someone who is killing me? Why would I want to work for someone who underpays me when I do a better job than the ones who they are giving that overpayment to? Why would I want to impress someone who licks toilet seats? Why would I want to be like someone who has no problem with killing a child, but will cry and put up posters for their dog? The day that you can stop pretending, the day that you tell the truth and the whole truth, the day that you don't have to downplay, make a mockery of my suffrage and my ancestors' suffrage and the violations, the many numerous violations that you could write series, not just one book, you could write series. And you condone it even at the ground level, European Caucasian, even at the ground poor level, welfare. And mind you, you guys go and vote. I do not. Because that means that I see it as valid, which I don't, because I'm not delusional. But yet you poison people. You force them to take drugs. The pain, chronic pain, but yet see, you'll label us as drug seeking. But then when it comes to the opioid, now you have compassion. Disgusting. Absolutely trifling. Now, these codes and all this voting and all this whole advocacy and we want this rule passed and we want that and this law passed and this bill, blah, 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 blah. It's absolutely sadistically comical how when a native of whichever continent you're intruding, imposing upon, trying to pretend that you're savior, you're the one who inflicted the harm, and turn around and try to save them and exploit people. Okay. Anyways, when you see a brown person who has been either murdered or injustice, and then you sweep it under the rug and you belittle it and then make excuses for why they deserve that abuse. But yet the main ones who break the very laws that they vote in, and laws with huge quotation marks around it, the very ones who participate and make this thing possible, your system, whether you're the poor Caucasian European, you're still a benefit. You still get benefits that the actual natives do not. And that's sad and pitiful. And you do it in other places too. Sad and pitiful. Absolutely disgusting. But you're smart and have a high IQ. No, you're not, because anyone that can't acknowledge the truth and comprehend that cognitively and be able to realize where the true problems are, then you're not that damn smart. You march around and pretend like you are. You may be able to verbally enunciate and talk all this bullshit, but the reality is no, you're not. And you're absolutely sadistic and psychotic. Okay? You're criminals, ran by criminals. Anyhow, the main ones on a large scale who break these very laws and codes, you're the very ones. Even in that Bible, when you're trying to shame someone using religion or insert authority or fear, the main ones, and you send your children to go kill people that are native of that land, as if you have any right or decency. You have no decency. And then your boys come back crying like little girls, as if they were the ones who had been shot, as if they were the ones who had been raped. I heard some kid, what was the body count before you realized that something was wrong? I thought you were a great Baptist boy. I thought you were a good born again Christian. Didn't the first commandment say thou shalt not kill? And you expect me to follow that? You don't care about it. You can't sit here and then try and say that I'm criminally insane. And why? Because I have faith and have belief in a higher power. I never said who that higher power was, nor will I address it. But when you introduce the Bible into your courtroom, but then you can call someone incompetent based off their beliefs, or you can basically treat them worse than any criminal when they actually just try and kill themselves. That's how pathetic you are. Is that as if it's not enough torture? Now they impose and now we're going to have a commitment for you, which is just a short-term way of saying probation or jail, or we're going to impose our presence into your life and just poison you and drug you and do whatever we want. Okay, fake American, you are settlers and immigrants. You're the true immigrants. You shouldn't be. The only wall you should be building is the wall after you return back to wherever you came from. If you dare want to gap your mouth about people in Mexican, Hispanic is not an immigrant. Actually, that's part of what you call America. And you're a fool. I got citizenship. My great, my grandmother, not no great, greats. My grandmother was raped. And the sad part was that I seen my grandfather as a decent man. I seen him as a decent man. However, I don't have no hatred in my heart. It's just pathetic. This, whatever. But anyways, the only wall you need to build is after you return back to wherever you came from. And if it's such a big ordeal that there's brown people up in Germany, although there were always brown people, not Germany, brown people over in Europe, there were always brown people everywhere. There were brown people here before you were created. I don't know who created you or why. Absolutely disgusting. Well, I've heard different I don't have the facts for why and who. And quite frankly, I bet they regret that shit. I bet they do. But here's the thing. Look, you guys are the main ones who cannot follow your own rules. You guys are the main ones whose enforcers, those mercenaries. You could sit there and watch the whole footage and not feel nothing in your heart. Turn around and watch the same footage, but now the skin is different. And all of a sudden, you cry wolf. You'll sit here and and it's never stopped the violence, and cry about, oh, well, you need to grow up and let it go. But you're still doing it. But yet you sing something that the song changes when the actual black people, Africans in their own land, demand for their land back. Because how is it that the immigrant to Africa is living lavishly and has more land than the people who are naturally born and of that land? You're not intelligent when you cannot acknowledge these facts.
So, violating someone's mental safe haven or penalizing and incriminating suicide survivors. Because when America did not get great again, actually it got worse, and nothing was done. Okay, your enforcement was not only killing people, but never validating or acknowledging that harm was done. For example, when I call to tell you that I'm being raped in my own home, mind you, and nothing is done.
Being raped, assaulted, stolen from, traumatized, and nothing is done. So much so, even if you're naked in the middle of the street, your enforcers sit in their vehicle and look at you scared as a bitch, even though he's the one who's got weapons. I'm naked. And then you have Somalian boys and females sexually degrading remarks, taking pictures and recording as if this is funny. And you want to talk about some immigrants, okay? As if it's funny. After this, as a woman being assaulted, raped, traumatized, but yet, oh, well, I guess nothing hurts me. No, I'm just so manly, right? I have no feelings, and I deserved it. Excuses, excuses, excuses. Rape kit not done. Traumatized. The Caucasian EMS employee in the back of that EMS van who plugged my nose and covered my mouth. Psychotic. Disgusting. And this is who you call your authority? This is an upstanding, civilized man? This is not no man. Your system, corrupt. You, immigrant, settler, you are the immigrant. dare you open your mouth to tell the colonized version, kind of sort of like me, right here. A colonized version, but nonetheless has more right and has more privilege in realistic natural law, not your false delusion and illusion and system of corrupt rules and codes. Those aren't true laws. But what you call Hispanic, Latino, and the Mexican, Puerto Rican, and Cuban, they have more natural, realistic, valid, and based off of actions, they have more reason and right and acceptance to be here than you, the one who keeps on demanding, yelling, and shouting and stating that they are a citizen of America, the fake corporation of the name that they threw on. Even when you say disgusting things like go back to Africa, it wasn't even called Africa. How can you name anything when you arrive late? And just because you have an ability to be filthy and to perpetuate and act out murders, just because you are psychotic enough to harm people and be proud of that. I read in the newspaper recently, just one of these local cities out here, and they're going, there's a section that's talking about some fun facts or whatever, or what happened on this day. And the only thing that this writer was able to point out were things that don't matter, such as baseball hits, such as, and then not only the things that don't matter, but if it did matter, the only things that they documented other than made up fancy, not even fancy, made up little activities such as the Oscars and shit. It's just made up bullshit, garbage rituals that don't stand for nothing and contribute nothing. And when I say nothing, I mean nothing. Contribute nothing to the growth and development and evolution and creation and participation of nature, okay, and the environment. Did absolutely nothing. Okay, as a nature, as part of a recycling, resourceful, productive, you guys sure love to push this, people are lazy, but the things that you guys do and the careers that you believe that you have, if there was ever such a thing, are inadequate, unnecessary. They provide nothing but another source of continued depletion of resources, uselessness, and wastefulness. All the packaging, okay, all the chemicals, all of it is disguised and decorated to be of authenticity, which it is not. It is destructive to the environment and everyone else. So yeah, the things written in the newspaper were not, I'm looking at it and going, wow, they get paid, and put huge quotation marks around the page. They get paid to do this and feel good about themselves. So much so that what fuels this false belief and this false status that you are entitled, and I pay taxes. You're entitled to be here in stolen land because of their great, 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 great indentured servant, which to me just sounds like worker, which means that it was a way of living in someone else's occupied land. Okay. So all you could write about was wars. On this day, wars. On this day, And then they go on to talk about what was it Libya or Tanzania? I think it was Libya. Yeah, they say, oh well, because the Libyan people did not were anti something. But what really, it was not anti anything. They made it seem as if they were being terrorists. And mind you, they didn't mention anything about these Libyans having weapons or harming people. They just said that they were anti whatever it was, and anti being anti to their presence. I can paraphrase and read in between lines. They were anti troop. They did not want to see these people with weapons in their land. And so they retaliated, and that the French opposed to quote unquote America um, flying over their country or continent, whatever the fuck y'all call it, even though it's just shouldn't, whatever you title things, flying over, and the French said, no, we don't want you flying over here. So then they said, oh, here goes another deflection. They go, well, the French forcing them to have to do a 90-mile flight to drop this bomb. Pathetic. Do you see the wording of this? Because the people were anti, or were anti presence. They were against you being in their land of which you weren't invited to, because your nosy ass always wants to show up somewhere where you don't belong. And instead of being civil people who know how to work with nature instead of destroy it, because the people don't like you being there, because they don't uphold the same values. They don't want your presence there, and they don't like your methods, and they don't like you imposing and enforcing them and trying to control them. They did not harm you. They simply said they don't want you there, and they don't like that you're there. And they have every right to say that and believe that, and demand that you be removed and you relocate. But instead of being decent, high IQ'd, and cognitively competent creatures, you validate and want to be part of the in crowd. You can never do anything. You can never exist amongst anyone without harming them and intruding upon their space and their boundaries. So what do you do? What do you do? How do you react when someone of their own home and land says that they are against you being there, and they have every right to say for you not to be there? What do? You blame it on France, that they forced you to have to drive 90 miles to a 90-mile flight to go drop bombs on Libyans, not for any violent act that they did, not for harming you, but simply for stating and declaring that they don't want you there. And because they don't want you there, you take it as a threat and say that they're being anti made up fucking bullshit, anti that basically they're anti-coward, because they're they're against you being there. And everywhere you go, you do this. And then, like the little gangster thug mob stars that you are, and by stars, you're not a star. Mobsters, criminals, hooligans, tyrants, terrorists. You blame it on France. They said France forcing, such words, forcing you to fly 90 miles to drop bombs. This is your reaction to being spoken to. Your reaction to someone disliking. They did not hurt you. You showed up in their land, and they were resisting whatever bullshit that you were oppressing them with. And you took it as an insult instead of seeing any other solution, such as getting the fuck off their land and leaving them alone. What does your criminal what does your criminal mindset and choice of reaction, not the one of dignity, not the one of being civil, not the one of respecting nature or life or people, not the one of maturity, the one of an evil, not even evil, the one of an inappropriate psychopath with the inability to acknowledge the truth. France did not force you. You took it as your own assignment to initiate such utter, disgusting, repulsive reaction to someone telling you or people telling you that they're not going to stand for your propaganda. You enforce people with your propaganda. You harass them. It's not a choice. It's not an incentive. It's not a vote. Nothing fair. And you have the audacity. And then look at who runs the figures behind that. You don't know anything of justice. Nothing. So when you use these words and assimilate them in sentences, you're great storytellers. You're great actors. You're great portrayers. That's about it. Outside of that, when you're offset,
so when someone jumps off a train to attempt to end their life in this sick and savagely ran system, there's still not only is there no sympathy, but then the arrogancy and the utter just ludicrous behavior as the EMS employee in the back of that nice, wonderful van that you guys put us in, covered my mouth and plugged my nose. That's how sick and depraved. So you came over here, settlers, okay, Americans, you came over here. It was not illegal when you came. And then you make a mockery and pretend as if abuse has stopped. What happened to us has not stopped. Okay? It may masquerade as if it's civil. Okay, but it's not. And funny as it is, all of those laws and codes and rules, and by laws I put a huge quotation mark around those, all of these rules and regulations that you hold us accountable for, even though we did not agree, and quite factually, we do not have to. However, we're penalized in our own home. And no, I was not brought on a boat. Your interpretation and most people's perception of what a native to America looks like actually is not valid. You're looking at one. I never called myself American, though. I didn't even call myself native back. So
you vote for these rules and codes so that it can build this imagery and create legitimacy where there is none, because the fact is that the main ones who break those very same laws and codes and actually believe that that's just the way it has to be, you are the main criminals and ones who break those same codes. So it's also repulsive when holding and expecting the native of their own land to be obedient to the criminals who break and cannot even follow their own instruction. That's sad. How can I see you as anything near a model of decency and take anything you say or do or write down seriously when you cannot abide your own code, your own commandments, and then to make this more repulsive in order to feel at ease and to attempt to prove a point that it's not you. You set up and entrap people, especially the natives, who at one point in time, and I speak of personal experience, have to entrap and lure in people to be fined or to receive a charge on their record, because you deep down you know that it is you. But in order to put you at ease and to project your filth, your pathology, because you're incapable of acknowledging the truth, you set people up or do extreme measures in order to prove a point that even when the natives can find themselves trapped in this fucking cage and immoral and just unspiritual and absolutely just psychotic figures and actors and actresses, storytellers, liars, untruth, injusters, if there's ever such a thing, the unjustifiable, unworthy, and unhonorable, the lack thereof honor. So they have to put on these just huge shows, super dramatic, victimhood, play a game, oh cry, oh me too, blah blah blah. And then they go, yeah. So to actual like survivors of their disgusting and just filthy. And it's just a disturbance. And it's just wow to watch it. It's just wow. Eye roll, gag. It's just makes me, it's just disgusting. Huh? So yeah, in the efforts to prove a point that even when they're able to trap the few victims that they lure in, they still, on a large scale, even those pitiful crimes that they're able to just stack it onto us as if that has anything to really truly do with us. They'll go, oh, well, she was soliciting. No, actually, it's you were soliciting. And you had to harass and you had to set up. And then, they put you in the disparity to begin with. So from going to being houseless because, the Caucasian European sadist, so-called married to the sperm donor, and then she can call the enforcers, and then the enforcers haul him off, even though he did nothing. But, they take European sadists' words at, they take her seriously, and yes, they must protect her. And she's not a victim, actually. She was the abuser the whole damn time. I should know. I survived that. Disgusting. So while he's hauled off and now I'm just like, whatever, there's no one, he didn't protect nothing to begin with because he hates himself. He hates me. And the only reason why, and the only interest he has in me is the paleness that comes around because that's what he adores. He's been tricked into, and dysfunctional as that is, that it still ain't good enough. Okay, to him it ain't good enough. And honestly, it's that doesn't offend me. I don't care. I have to validate myself. I don't give a fuck about his choices. He has to live with that. Okay? So, being houseless, without shelter now, because I refuse to stay amongst a criminal, sadist, sick as can be. And yet, oh, I'm disabled. She's not disabled. She's sick. In an effort to save face, they use religion, and they go, oh, I'm in pain, or I'm mentally disabled. No, you're just a criminal. You're a psychopath, and you enjoy harming people. Okay, you're just a walking shell, a maniac, and they should have never had access to any of this. They corrupt everyone and everything they walk upon and amongst, because their inability to have any respect for nature itself, their inability to see when they've done wrong, well, actually their illusion, because they're great actors and actresses. That's all they're good at doing, is acting. They're storytellers. They give honor and acknowledgement to things that don't matter. They call trash exquisite. They throw away useful material instead of giving it to the ones who know what to do with it, and then turn around and blame the natives. No. Oh, well, it's the Africans' fault all that trash and stuff is in the water. But remember, we're too poor. We're poor, and we're welfare queens. Why would we have anything to do with that if all we do is eat like ramen noodles and stuff? You mean to tell me the plastic wrapper for ramen noodles is the reason why the living in the water are coming up dead? It's from my ramen noodle packages? While you're making bombs and stuff, we're just trying to get by. While you're ungrateful and crying about that you have to fix your radiator, we walk. While you're crying about brown people living a few houses down and how you work your ass off doing absolutely nothing, pretending like you're doing something, their homes back in the country that they're from has been destroyed, and that baby that she's pregnant with is going to be born with birth defects because of the trifling ass shit that you sent your sons in to do. While those so-called black African soldiers did not have access to that GI Bill, many of them died, and their families are still suffering through poverty. Disgusting.
Whatever. Here's the thing. When you have to demean my history, when you have to lie, you've already, okay, first of all, anytime that you have to lie and cover your tracks, you know that it's not, this is not, you have no moral ethic standing. I do not.
Anytime that you have to lie and there's proof that will prove that indeed you've lied, you have no room to say anything to anyone as far as what is and what goes on. Anytime that you can do the same crime that you're penalizing this one for, anytime that you do that same exact crime and no consequence comes to you, you have absolutely zero, no room, no authority. You have no points. You have no proof. You have nothing to back up your legitimacy in stating that you are the be all, ends all. You are not in charge, actually. You're not even in charge of your own damn self. Anyone that needs to lie and hide things in order to uplift their self, anyone who has to use fake codes in place of real law, you are by far, very far, not by a long shot, are you anywhere near superior, nor are you anywhere near intelligent. If truth is not a part of the cognitive function of you, then you are not. You do not have the credentials, and you can't even get the credentials at any such institute. Anyone that leads a life of lies and is fulfilling a character and has to steal others' information and downplay others' information and deprive people and sabotage people. Anyone who has to do this and makes it their assignment to spy and be corrupt and poison, do all this crap, you're not superior. You're conniving, manipulative, condescending, disgusting, no moral code, no empathy within, no enlightenment. You're not enlightened. You're not enlightened, and you ain't even darkened. You're psychotic. And stunningly and embarrassingly, it's embarrassingly arrogant. You cannot have intellect if truth is not at the foundation and source of your cognitive function, output, and displays, and behaviors, whether it's the behaviors or the words. Your words. Anytime that you have to insert lies into there, then you are not superior and you are not intelligent. You may think that you are, but once again, the way you think obviously is of a depraved, backwards, warped mentality. When you can sit and watch someone be assaulted or murdered, and just because based off of how that one looks, you can make excuses for why the victim is at fault. But yet, that very same scene that you just witnessed with your own eyes that you made excuses for, when the skin is changed, the context is the same, but now the victim is a pale-faced immigrant occupying a land that they did not discover, with the audacity to destroy other people's homes, destroy other people's families, rape them, steal from them, and leave their land destroyed, destructed, broken, polluted. That's when it came. It was plentiful. It was abundant. It was full of nutrients. People were healthy. But when you leave, you leave viruses, scorn, bitter, resentment, destructive, tampered with, tainted, polluted, water, poison, everything, from the toothpaste to the water to the toys, even to the paint on the fucking walls. And you gotta come over here and say, well, look at them, and they're not a developed country. Well, if they're not a developed country, then what to say? What is worse? What's worse? To be a simple one who can take care of themselves without you? Or is it to be a greedy, selfish, excuse-making, liar, thief, violent murderer, rapist? I choose simple over the criminal. The reason why they're starving, the reason why their water is poisoned, the reason why there's a lack of food and resources, the reason why is because you sent either yourself or your children over there to disobey your very own God that you swear you believe in and that you trust. You trust in your God? Obviously you don't. You're a liar. Either your God is a liar or you are a liar or both of you are liars. Thou shalt not kill. And the first thing you go do is go and kill brown people in their own homeland. Pathetic.
Care if your great, 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 great grandparents were slaves. I don't care. And the reason why I don't care is because you are benefiting. I don't care. You had a choice. You had a choice. You did not have to come. There were those who were exploited and colonized. This is not what I looked like. The image that you're looking at, that is not what I looked like originally. My grandmother was raped. So, it did not happen many years ago. And as far as getting over it, we will get over it when it stops happening. When our voices are heard. When you acknowledge what is done still to this day. When you hold us accountable to a code that we did not create or
How dare you hold us accountable to a code that we do not give our consent or our validation to? We don't vote. We don't believe in you. You're not authentic. And you've done nothing to prove that you're even worthy of such a thing, being that you have a record, a consistent record that still to this day has not stopped. You're still murdering natives in their own land. Go back to your home. This ain't it. The reason why this ain't it, because you're part of that system. And to make more mockery and to show your absolute arrogance when you scoff and make a joke almost or try to parallel your inadequacy, talking about a racism. What do you mean? You're over here. You should not be here. And even if you want to go so far arrogantly and stupidly say anything about go back to Africa to anyone, if you're going based off this logic and the story of kidnapping, kidnapping and taken to another land, then it's your responsibility to make them go back to Africa. And when they return to Africa, perhaps those South Africans that you feel so much empathy and sympathy and compassion for, perhaps they can relocate to Europe with you. And those ones that you stole, kidnapped, beat, the offspring, the children of the ancestors, it did not happen so long ago. Still happening today. To open your mouth and say such filthy vile of a language and a method of deflecting, and placing shame on the exploited in the aftermath of which, the consequence of which is not even theirs. So go back to Africa. Weren't you the one who made several movies about this? Were you not? Did it not get rewards and Grammys and Oscars and recognition? And it got money, box office? So it gained wealth? It's written in those books? The melanated people existed everywhere before you came. Okay? So in all reality, go back to Africa is an invalid and arrogant and childish. Actually, no. Children have truth, more truth than you do. Children speak truth naturally until they meet you and are corrupted. So, go back to Africa? Really? Go back. Withdraw all of your propaganda and images in places where they do not belong. Look at your movies in reflection of your Jesus story and Egyptians. And your biological makeup is not relative. It is not realistic, and it is not possible. It is impossible based off of facts that can be proven that you are not the birther. You are not the creator of those stories and historical memories. You're not. You would not be based off of your biological appearance, your biological makeup and format. You do not belong in these locations of which you are placing your image and of which you are displaying as the role, the actors and actresses. It is not honest, and it is not a clear and realistic replication of what factually those identities are. Okay? So when you get upset about fictitious characters such as your Satan Claus and Jesus, when you get offended by someone inserting an accurate identity of what Jesus and Satan Claus would actually look like, and what Lilith would actually look like, and what Adam and Eve actually would look like, and what Noah actually would look like, and what Jeremiah, King David, the list goes on. They would not be a replication of you based off of climate, based off of temperature, based off location, based off geography. All of those provable. You do not belong there. How is it that, based off of your guys' tests and consensuses, the people that are having the most enjoyable life, as they admit, are in European areas? And the reason would be because you're not where you belong. You're too busy destroying everyone else's location. Of course, Europe would be the most pleasant place to be because they are having a place where the majority population is them. However, in conflict of your colonization and intrusion and harassment and enforcement of your presence, whether people like you or not, you make a home out of someone else's home. In an effort to house you, people have to degrade their standards of living in order to survive because you're so belligerent and arrogant ego-driven and entitled, you refuse to look yourself in the mirror and acknowledge that these are facts. And then when you hear the truth, especially coming out of a brown native person's mouth, you refuse to accept it as truth. Because if you accept it as truth, it would hurt you miserably. Because then you would finally realize who the true criminal is. And it sure ain't the natives of any land that have brown skin. Why is that? Because they're suffering due to your inability to figure out that it's you who is imposing this, that it's you who causes all of this, and it's you who refuses to see another outlet and method of existing. You cannot exist without hurting other people and stealing. And that's just the way you are. And we're going to keep on reminding you, because evidently our words, because you're so fragile and sensitive and pathetic, because any time that my words are so offensive, but yet you murdering is condoned, there's a huge problem. And it ain't going to get no better. I don't expect you of all people, based off of your records, I don't expect you to finally go, you know what, I'm wrong. I need to leave. I should leave and go where I belong, and stop imposing on people, and stop saying how they cannot live without me. Because we can, and we did, and we will, regardless. You're not that damn important. And the fact that you have to, in every fucking continent, impose yourself, invite yourself. How is it anytime these so-called institutions called colleges, you're part of the head lead or something, you're the lead, you're always present when talking about these issues, writing your notes down as if you're some the acting, such classic acting, I'll give you that, but nonetheless lies. You're not the victim. You're the violent one, intruder, immigrant, unwanted, undesired. You have no real standards worth replicating. Anyone who licks a toilet seat like that and talks about grabbing people by pussies, talks about my hair is so long, I'm beautiful, I'm gorgeous, I'm white, and money, you're driven by money, that's your focus, to get rich. Anyone that has to kill other people and remove them from their own homes to sit their asses inside there. Anyone who calls someone else lazy, but then does a job doing pathetic shit like writing a newspaper, not talk about nothing important, nothing of real knowledge, just garbage. And reminiscing on war, reminiscing on Oscars, reminiscing on presidents. Bullshit.
Sent to in our own territory. So when you compare your story to mine, it's laughable because you're trying so desperately to advocate for your legitimacy in a land of which is held at ransom, and the people, whether they are originally from here or not, the ones who are being mistreated, and you keep on imagining that we're lying to you, I guess we're just lying, okay? You cannot cry racism when you're here in someone else's dwelling. Still to this day, it was not illegal when
you cannot cry reverse racism. The only thing that we do maybe is fight, protect ourselves and our children, tell the truth, tell it like it is, tell our story, and refuse to cater to your fragility. That's about it. ain't no reverse racism. Racism is what is upheld and perpetuated by you guys. When you find it acceptable to steal and use the same bullshit weak ass to be able to make progress in someone else's home and then wonder why and make excuses as to I don't know why they're not progressing. Everyone else progresses. Everyone else has a living. Everyone else has a job. Everyone else is I pay taxes, man. And it flies right over your head.
And you're making rules and harming people and sexualizing them, exploiting them, degrading them, and stealing from them with every breathing moment that you exist here and what you have reconstructed into making it great again. It will never be great. And the reason why it will never be great is because when you have compulsive liars and apathetic males alongside their psychotic female partners, when you have men who will chop off their body parts in effort to be something, they know something is strange with this. When you allow black women and children to be raped, harassed, violated, go to jail and be incarcerated for pitiful and petty crimes, when you accuse the victim of the abuse, but let it happen to you, and the song quickly changes. When you turn a blind eye to the crimes perpetuated and condoned as an illegal, you do not have citizenship. How can you earn or be entitled to citizenship when the replication of who was here before you did not consent to that? I am here right now talking to you. You're in a home that is not yours. You were not invited. You were treated with more respect and are still treated at least with enough tolerance. And no, there is no duality. There is no duality. Someone will always be uncomfortable and offended as long as the lie is still present. There is no duality. There's a tolerance or an intolerance. There's no duality. We don't exist in the same, no, not as long as you're accepting fairy tales as truth. Murdered, raped, stolen from, kicked out of our own land and told to go somewhere else. Had our resources stolen, education stolen, information stolen. Okay, I'm right here. I may look different based on the breeding, based on the raping, and then the self-hating. The self-hater goes and creates a child who he cannot relate to because he sees himself. So you can convince yourself, but that's not the truth. And then this half-ass excuse about somebody being in Europe. Okay, so let's go there. With me being mixed breed, right? Wouldn't that mean that now I'm that's my land too? Oh, exactly. Exactly. So when you come over here and talk about a citizenship, but yet are going to try and downplay or make the situation seem as if, oh, I'm not in a bad position. How are you, the one who came over here to my territory, my land? And by my land, I'm not claiming it as in something you could physically grab. This was my area. You did not bring me on a boat. I was right here before you started renaming things, okay? How are you living in a better situation than I am? How do you have access to that information if I don't? So if you want to convince me, you'll never be able to, but you can sit here and say all that you want, but something should click within your brain, of which you stated that you are far more superior and intelligent than I. And I'm not going to argue with you on that. A great man once said, truth don't need to be validated by your ignorance. Okay? So, you're talking about loans? You're talking about these little programs? You're talking about a sad half-ass maneuver. A sad half-ass attempt at shutting people up and not fixing a damn thing. May I further add, several of you immigrants, and I don't care which generation you're at, several of you immigrants are still beneficiaries of those programs too. So, further insult, you're on the same programs, but yet you dare open your mouth to say something to someone who was here before you came? Way before you came. Way before you were even created. Now I am lighter skinned, but I'm still here. Still here. Insulting. Disgusting. And absolutely arrogant for you to say any vile words about your citizenship and talking about your home and then bringing up things about your great grands were slaves. Are you meaning to tell me that even though they were slaves, they still were able to get benefits? So that GI Bill and how a Southern Caucasian, you want to call European, could have how many children and be married and get how many thousands, and you're able to get enough money to accumulate wealth through a welfare program? You're able to get loans, but yet your aggressive tone and disrespectful standpoint and mental view on someone who was here before you came. You stole, abused, lied to, dare kick us out of our own home. You've got to be absolutely appallingly disturbed and mentally retarded and incompetent through and through to not grasp the reality of the one that you believe is throwing a pity party was the one here prior to. So how dare you come over here and tell me what I should be doing? I always treated you with dignity and respect. And my truth hurts you? So instead of shutting your fucking mouth and telling the whole truth if you are going to open it, don't you ever fucking tell me how somebody was racist to you. Did you ever tell me that when my grandmother, not great, my grandmother raped? She was raped. dare I say, you've put your hands on me. Your enforcers put their hands on me. You've demeaned, and then you want me to shut up about the violations and crimes that have been done? A white woman can go into the store and steal to go and get drugs. I go in after being harassed by the police for absolutely nothing, having my money stolen by your police. So when I leave and I have no money and to my name, according to this system that I did not agree to, I was not practicing prior to your arrival. So when I go get hygiene products, remember, because they're just so nasty and they're trashy and ratchet. So while I go and try and get hygiene products, not stealing from the store to go and get drugs, yet I'm tackled, choked, torn shirt for fucking soap. You're pathetic. You're pathetic. Whenever you have to downplay us to prove your legitimacy, what have you done to be worthy of staying here? You send your boys to another land of brown people and kill them, and you come back here and cry as if you were the one whose family is torn apart. You're greedy. Every place that you go, you leave it more and more trashed, poisoned, and pollution, with hearts that are bitter. And I'm not even angry. I'm passionate. Justice will never be born until the truth is the main one speaking. Otherwise, if you're going to tell half-truth, partial truth, I don't want to hear shit coming out of your mouth, nothing but the whole truth, regardless of how you feel. Because I notice when you guys start talking, how you quickly have to dive off somewhere else because you can't validate it. So you have to start make that, or you go back into your illusion. You don't think that's racism? No, it's not racism. That's called discrimination and prejudice. They're allowed to and entitled to talk shit about you when that's all they've got. We're talking about you guys blowing people's heads off and hanging them from fucking trees and violating them and stealing from folks, stealing whole entire lands. I'm not talking about calling you a redneck or a cracker. That's pathetic. There is no parallel between words to what your actions are doing. You legitimize it. Oh, black on black crime. No shit. When you're surrounded by poison and toxic, fucking wasteful people, mentally incapable and incompetent, that's what the fuck you turn into after too much experiments with them, is that you turn into fucking psychos just like the fucking people who lead. If we can call them people, because evidently, savage, you're the savage. You're the damn savage, licking toilet seats and shit, trifling as could be. Okay? So, you go over to their land, and you feel entitled to be over there. You feel entitled to go anywhere, especially if there's brown people, and impose and enforce. You're psychotic in every aspect of the word. Delusional as could be. And no one can save you, not even yourselves. Because you're vile with your thoughts. And you guys, and you may believe that you're civilized, but deep down inside, you're not. Anytime that you blame the folks who were very simplistic and resourceful, anytime you blame us, we're kind. We were generous. We're still tolerable when you're just absolutely, it's a headache to be around you. I don't care which status you're in, because we sense your fakeness. and your false acceptance, and the audacity to put on that show. You're the one who's here, unwelcomed. Dare you call Hispanic and illegal, and then allow Somalians to come over here and do all that shit? Why? Because he's a misogynist and he upholds that culture? I don't hate you. I just don't care. Why not you return back to your place? Don't you ever open your fucking mouth to tell me to go back to no Africa. Thanks to you, Europe might as well be mine too then. I've never needed to threaten you with violence. It's sad how my words alone seem to hurt you much more than what you're doing to people. And you validate it. You're the one who came here unwelcomed. The so-called Africans who came here intermarried and bred, and by bred, had offspring. Why not you leave? White people should not be, so-called white people, that's a status title, shouldn't be in Africa. Africa does not produce that. Africa does not produce pale-skinned Europeans. Stop it. You want to come to, and it's sad, because I know much of this information, and you can read all the books in the world, and you still wouldn't be truthful. Even if you knew all the words in the world, even if you were shown all the evidence, because you are shown all the evidence, and you do have plenty of books, okay? And I still am able to see the criminal and uncivilized savage that you are. And I hear it. All the crimes that have been done, people take you seriously in your system, of course. And I could care less if people find me less attractive. Wonderful. Because unlike many, I'm in control of my own feelings. I don't need to be in a fake ritual and go through the process of a fake ritual to a male in order to feel adequate. I don't need fake label, fake designer, so-called brands to wear to feel adequate. All the things I need, you are unable to control. And that's the greatest part of all.